One of the ways that God guides us into His will is by speaking to us through godly counsel. When the Apostle Paul and Silas and Timothy were on what we call the second missionary journey, they thought that God wanted them to preach the gospel in the province of Asia, which would be modern-day Western Turkey. But the Bible says that as they started to try to go in there, that the Spirit of Jesus prevented them from going in. There was a closed door. So they began to work their way through Galatia and Phrygia until they arrived at the border between Mysia and Bithynia. And then the Bible says, but the Spirit of Jesus would not let them go in. It's interesting that the tense of the verb there means they tried again and again and again to go into Bithynia, but the Spirit of Jesus would not let them do so. He closed the door. So they headed west through the province of Mysia until they arrived at Troas, which was right on the Aegean Sea. They had gone as far as they could. And the Bible tells us that in chapter 16 of the book of Acts, in verses 9 and 10, during the night, Paul had a vision of a man from Macedonia standing and begging him, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." After Paul had seen the vision, we got ready at once to leave for Macedonia, concluding that God had called us to preach the gospel to them. So Paul has this supernatural vision from God, but he gets up the next day and he shares it with his traveling companions, Silas, Timothy, and now Luke also, and they come to the conclusion that God is calling them to Macedonia. The word concluding there is a very significant word. It means to, together with others, come to a conclusion based upon comparing the evidence. And so these men must have sat down and went, well, you know what? God closed the door in Asia. He closed the door in Bithynia, but it seems like he's opening the door in Macedonia, and they came to the same conclusion, and God confirmed it was his will. So when you're seeking God's will, share it with other godly people, people who know God, people who know the ways of God, who are filled with his Spirit. And if what you're sensing is from the Lord, then after sharing with them what God's doing, they will come to the same conclusions, and you will know that this is God.